That's all correct. All right. Well, Firefox gave us a warning. Let's go with that and see what happens. Otherwise, we'll just use the YouTube stream. Okay, we're ready to go. Let's do this. You're listening to episode 285 of PHPUgly, the white van free candy of the PHP community. I'm your host, Eric Van Johnson, and with me tonight is John Congdon.
May I have Twizzlers, please? Do you have Twizzlers on that van?
And Tom right up.
I'm not a party to that at all.
Are you a Twizzlers fan, John? Because I
Twizzlers all the way.
I am one of the few people I know who prefer Twizzlers over Red Vines, and my kids and wife think I'm nuts.
Well, that's because Twizzlers are if they made a candy out of a candy. It's like
I'm ride or die Twizzler.
Licorice existed, and then they're like, but what if it was candy licorice? And you're like, no, but it is. And then they were like, Twizzlers, and you're like, oh, I get what you mean.
Is it 285? Do I have the wrong... So our Discord's already chatting in. We're already getting title requests.
It's 284.
Oh, okay. All right.
Not judging.
All right.
Did you say 285 when you introed? Maybe you said 285. I might have missed it.
Oh, maybe I said 285. I don't know.
You're listening to 284 in case that matters.
Discord. So there's so much to be talked about in Discord. If you'd like to join us, you can join us at discord.phpugly.com. But more importantly, John made an executive decision last week. And if you really want to get all the extra bits of the show, you're going to have to start watching us live because John has implemented a rule. We're even trimming the YouTube channel now.
Really?
So we're taking out the pre and post discussions out of the YouTube.
We stayed on after last week, and as we were talking, we keep saying how this is for people on Discord, like the after show. We're like, yeah, but it's around forever on YouTube, right?
Well, not only that, but we really incriminate ourselves after the show.
Yeah, it was.
We say a lot of stupid things after the show.
God, do we talk about some dumbass stuff? Then
it was a rough play. Yeah.
So I'm like, doesn't YouTube Studio allow you to trim it? And he went in and looked, and he was like, yeah. I'm like, okay, let's do that.
Let's start doing that. Okay, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense to me.
Well, let's tighten up the YouTube channel a little bit. Maybe we'll get 1 or 2 more subscribers. That'd be nice.
Yeah. It'd be nice. You can always go for a couple more subscribers.
Plus, the people that join us in Discord live are really close to our hearts.
Yeah, literally. I usually keep my phone right here in my pocket. It's just it makes me feel good. You're my arc reactor of the PHP world, our Discord. I don't know, man. I'm kooky today. I've been driving a lot, so
you've come down to San Diego twice today.
Twice today. Made a double trip.
I got an electric vehicle. I can drive wherever I want now. I don't care about gas.
Man. Tom, what's up with you? You're being very, very quiet.
No,
I got nervous.
I got accused of drinking before the show early on today.
Wait. Accused or asked?
It's only an accusation if it's not founded and you don't admit to it. It goes from being accused to being noticed.
I am just being cautious because I have already spent most of my day in a series of long-winded rants, and I knew that I was going to bring it to the podcast, and then my wife had a bad day at work and was like, hey, before you do your podcast, we should go out. And I was like, that's a terrible idea. But
let's do
you
it.
You had a bad day. I'm not gonna like.
Alcohol is not the best way to deal with a bad day. Matter of fact, I don't drink when I had a bad day. I only drink when I had a good day.
What?
Well, it's good to know that you're better than me.
I drink when I have a bad day.
Do you really?
I drink when I have a bad day. I drink when I have a good day. So
I'm not a bad day drinker. I'm not an angry drinker either.
Really?
Like when I'm upset, like I don't know. I enjoy my scotch a lot, and I need to be in a good mood to enjoy it. I don't want to not enjoy it. You guys,
so I only drink a couple times a week, but if I have a really bad day, I'm like, I need a beer right now. It's just
I don't know.
Just the way I am.
I'm more of a schedule person. It's just this is the day I do this.
From morning to night, sometime in that frame.
Funny.
It's been a rough week. And
for you or the wife? Both?
The realization today that about 80 to 90 combined hours of my work has been because of somebody deleting a default value from the Laravel Q service. Just sort of pushed me over the edge. Like Laravel, when you implement Laravel queuing systems, the supervisor or Horizon, there are default values for the number of retries on a job. And finding out that somebody deleted that value and that it defaults to infinite when you do that and costs
another $1 million.
Can't get into specifics, but realizing just on the work that was done to diagnose why queues are running out of control.
Thomas, you are doing a fantastic lead-in to a question that was posted in our Discord. If you join us in our Discord, discord.phpugly.com, you'll see we have several channels. And one of those channels is show questions. And A. Woods posted a question in there today. Serious question for Shokum. I don't know why he calls me out, but whatever. With everything you have going on now. Nope, that's the wrong question. Sorry, let's back up. Wait, where did the question go?
I don't think it was in show notes. I think it was general.
Was it in general?
I think it was in general.
Where'd it go? Okay, somebody posted a question about the review process.
Right.
GitHub, and they called somebody else out. I think GitLabs, and how we do PR reviews.
I know it's it was D Goosens in there. It was today asking all of us how do we do code reviews. I find it very painful to deal with this in the GitLab, GitHub web environment. On the other side, I have not seen any efficient ways to deal with this in PHP Storm, and they haven't checked VS Code.
So
let's
start with that, Thomas.
Well, no.
So I want to say that
let's talk.
All of your PRs are code reviewed. So how could code reviewed, peer reviewed, whatever? How could somebody removing a default value get through that? And
one of my
favorite because you have that evidence.
One of my favorite tools is Git Blame.
Yes.
And
I have that in PHP Storm. I have that set up where you hover over the gutter and it will tell you who touched that line last.
I have it set up so that it extends the current line you're on. So it's always telling you who to blame for this line.
Oh, I've seen that.
And I will tell you that this change was made a month before I joined the company.
And you just now
so it's been there for a long time.
So it never made it through code review. This was part of the conversion from a legacy application to the current version that we have now. And it just always was.
Now I have a follow-up question. Is this really to blame? Were you blamed Horizon? Is this the reason that you ran up that bill a couple months ago?
Yes.
So it wasn't a Horizon issue, like you said.
No. And the amount of money that I'm sure we spent resolving what I believed was to be a Horizon issue or a Laravel queues issue was because when Horizon is installed, it gives you a default config file. And that default config file has the number of retries set to 6. And before the first commit was even submitted to our system, they had deleted that line from the config file.
Well, they could have deleted the line, right? Because then that it would lose that configuration setting altogether.
It did.
Right. That's what he's saying. The
and
initial file was committed without it.
No, but I'm saying there's a that's setting a variable, right? I mean, that's setting something in that config file. So if you delete the line, that variable would be gone. And I'm sure
which means that it defaults to null, which Horizon interprets as run indefinitely. When a job fails,
I'm not going to challenge you on this. I question that a little bit.
Fucking better not.
Wait. Why are you questioning that? Because that makes sense to me.
Okay.
I'm being serious. What do you?
I don't think it would. I would be interested to test that. I think an exception would be thrown somewhere.
I think like a lot of things there are like the defaults. If it's not set for a number of retries, I could see infinite being like, okay, you didn't tell me how many, so I'm just gonna keep trying. Forever.
Well, that's the thing. In the config file, you can either pass it something from your .env file, or it has a default set. Right? So what I'm saying is I believe that if that entire line's removed, I think the code would have caught that and thrown an exception.
PRs are welcome, I'm sure.
I'm sure. So I could be wrong, and I'm not going to question you on it. Let's just assume, because you were so right the first time on this topic, let's assume you're right this time on that very same topic. We all know we can't question Thomas. He's always right.
No, but he was admitting that he was wrong the first time, so I'm assuming that he
doesn't make him right the second time, John.
I understand that you're trying to provoke me.
No, I'm defending you here. I think
Eric's trying to provoke me.
Yeah, I think he is. I'm happy you found the answer though, because I've been wondering like how that happened. Like why did it run up such a large
bill? Have I.
And now you have an answer. So that is a good thing. But let's go back to D. Goosen's question about code review in general. This happened prior to you getting there, and this was before you had code review process in place, right?
Yes.
And what steps have you taken or the company taken as far as code review since you've gotten there?
Well, like I said, this wouldn't have shown up in code review because the file, when you bring Horizon into a Laravel environment, the file gets created for the first time. And if you delete that line from the file and then commit for the first time, it never shows up as being a changed value. So
unless somebody knows the default config file,
which I should have. I absolutely should have. That's my fault.
But you said this happened before you got there. So
I want to continue poking the bear on this topic for a second because I'm curious about something. So you're saying that the first time you did all that troubleshooting and you resolved the issue, you never actually found this problem? And follow-up question, how did you then resolve the issue? Like obviously you're accounting for that somehow and taking in handling
yes. We implemented a custom rate limiting middleware.
Okay.
But you didn't need to if you had the config setting in place.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay, continue, John. I am sorry I interrupted.
No, I'm defending you still because you said this happened prior to you starting. So there's nothing for you to be blamed on. Like you keep saying, I should have known. You're not going to go through and check everything, right? I mean, that's a hard thing to find.
No, it's not, because queues with Laravel have long been a sticking point for me. You've known I hate Laravel queuing forever. I should have come in and looked at what the retry variables were set to first. Like, why is this thing running indefinitely? Let me check the retry rates. And finding out that the supervisor did not have a defaulted retry rate was like... So I'm trying to diagnose the problem on a job that does have a retry, like manually set on it, which is the thing that you can do with jobs. And I'm looking at it and it says the retry on it is 1, except that the behavior for chained queues and batched queues is different. And we have a webhook that when a job successfully executes, gets called and performs a series of checks and reruns things if necessary or doesn't. And a series of behaviors that are very, very hard to diagnose. And what I ended up on today was basically saying, like, yes, I still don't know why I started getting these looping behaviors in the jobs, but I know that it has something to do with the retry values being set to infinite. So our system is very, very complicated. It has lots of conditionally applied jobs that execute based off of other jobs that finish successfully, and actually a whole branching system so that if a job fails, another job that acts as a failover takes over and performs its actions. And so it's hard to say exactly why what was happening. But I know
not anymore, though, right?
But well, no, I still can't find the place where the job would have programmatically restarted itself again, because it should have followed the rule that was set in the job itself. But I did find other related jobs that were being called sometimes synchronously, sometimes not, that didn't follow the endless looping behavior. So I found a solution, but I couldn't find the problem.
So again, not being a Laravel developer, I ran into something similar recently where I use Beanstalk, and if you don't give it a time to run, it defaults to a minute. Or you can set how long a job should run. And if it doesn't complete within that time, it just goes back under the queue automatically. Nothing to do with PHP. It's part of the Beanstalk protocol. So I had jobs set, even though I set it to 5 minutes, it was because of the way the code was written. Some jobs were taking longer. And then all of a sudden I had 1.6 million jobs going, and I couldn't figure out, like, why is this such an issue? What's going on? And it turned out it was because if I limited the number of workers to like 10, 12 at a time, everything was fine. But if I let all of the workers, like all the available workers, work on it, which was sometimes 60, 70, 80, 90 workers at a time, I had a locking mechanism in there. So it was sitting there waiting its turn, getting past that 5-minute timeout, and then basically the process that was running would still finish the job, but Beanstalk would put the job back onto the queue. So now the job would get run 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah.
So it could be something very similar to that.
No, and don't get me wrong, I still hate queuing systems.
They are hard to debug for sure.
And I don't feel any better about them yet.
But it's not a Horizon issue.
Hopefully, this fixes the issue and I can start to get comfortable again.
I feel like it's one of those memes. Tom was like, it wasn't a Horizon issue. And John standing behind him, it never was.
All right.
I mean,
let's get back
I had a 2-hour phone call with my buddy at work where I was close to tears.
Let's see if we can't get you all the way to tears by the end of the show. I feel like we're off to a good start.
You're gonna try right
now. I took my medicine immediately after that phone call.
All right. We'll get back to our weeks later. I want to get back to D. Goosen's question about code review because this is a fascinating topic to me. So let's go back to that. Now this happened before you started, before code review was a part of your process.
Yes.
I know we've touched on this kind of in the past. What is your code review process now? Pull request is open. How do you do code reviews?
So the first thing is that we have default reviewers for all of our PRs, which are generally considered the senior developers amongst the teams, like all of the teams. And so when I'm looking at my list of PRs to review, like right now I have 5. The first thing I look for...
Do you have a time frame you're supposed to respond to those in?
ASAP, generally.
But like one gets open at 4. Are you expected to respond today?
No.
So do you have that in place? Like you have X hours to respond to it. And if it's not done by end of day, next day is fine. You could say no, it's okay.
It's not a trick question.
It's not defined.
Well, let me say the first thing I do is I look at if the PR is or is not in my wheelhouse. So like when I wake up, first thing I do is PRs and email. And when I log off, the last thing I do is PRs and email.
So for about 2 hours, you do PRs and emails. We get it.
About 7 hours. Got about 1 hour of actual work.
He rolls out of bed around 2 in the afternoon, works for a couple hours, goes back to bed.
Okay. There are people I work with who listen to this podcast.
We're just joking. We're giving Tom our time.
So there are some areas of our code I am totally foreign to. And I'm added to the PR as a default reviewer.
Really? The Horizon config files one of them? Oh, was I not muted? I'm sorry, Tom. Go on.
No, it's okay. I can mute you.
We saw what. There we go.
If it's in my wheelhouse, I deal with a very specific area as what I call my area of the code. I took ownership and just said, this is my stuff. Other people can work on it. That's fine. But it's my thing. I know it inside and out. I immediately go to that and review it very, very carefully.
Okay. But when you say you have default reviewers, let's say a junior developer opens a pull request. Do they know who to assign it to, or are they assigning it to 10 people?
It assigns itself. So we have a setup in GitLabs that says when you create a PR, add these 6 people as reviewers.
Well, that's not assigned to anyone, though.
That's so.
I
know GitHub's interface. GitLab may be similar. In GitHub, you have reviewers and an assignee or assignees.
Mm-hmm.
Does GitLab work the same way?
No, we just have reviewers.
Okay, so when you have multiple reviewers automatically assigned, it's not assigned to any one reviewer. So how do you guys determine between the group of you who's doing the reviewing?
So our pipeline requires 2 passing reviews to continue in Jira.
Okay, so it's just a matter of, hey, whoever has time to look at this, if you give it a blessing, check it off. If not,
but there's also an understanding that if this is a funder's ticket, I need to pass it. Okay. Someone else shouldn't pass it.
Yeah, obviously.
They shouldn't be the second reviewer.
Right.
So
but it's an understanding, but it's not a rule.
Yes, it's an understanding.
It's not something you could programmatically put in place.
Okay.
Not yet. We're working on that stuff.
So
PR is open. Six people are requested a review from.
6. So we have 6 default reviewers. When I'm doing something that deals with operations, I will add someone from operations, and I will comment in the ticket that this ticket should not pass without operations approval.
Okay,
but that's not enforced in any way. That's just a policy of mine.
Okay, let's move on to this because
sure.
I'm curious where we get to. So let's just say 2 people review it and approve it.
But yes. what is your process of actually doing the review for your piece of the code?
That's what I want to get to. Yeah.
Yeah. So idyllically, I would start with the tests. Make sure that there are tests assigned, read what the tests do, and get an understanding of what is being tested here. Then compare the tests. Well, actually, okay, starting off, read what the ticket description is. Make sure that I understand what's being attempted. Then go in the code, check the tests. If the tests are not checking something that is in the ticket, then say, why aren't you checking that this is a PDF? Or why aren't you checking that this call is being sent or not sent? Then, once I believe the tests, go into the code and start doing syntax checks, basic linting and code compliance stuff. Is there a comma after every element of an array? Are you using the format that we have agreed upon for calling objects from facades? Stuff like that.
You're just looking, you're just looking at a high level, glance over the code.
Yeah. Now, if it's a junior developer, I am much more particular on a line by line basis.
Okay.
I say, hey, you used a switch statement here. It's not the optimal execution. We prefer to use a match statement here. Or, hey, there's a case here where you're not returning anything when you should be returning null or a value. Linting type behavior.
Okay, so you do that for junior developers.
I do.
All right. So after you do that review, you've checked tests and stuff. Is there anything else you do?
I look very much for things that I don't understand. We've talked a lot in the past about code smells and like how code smells aren't necessarily a great thing to like base your programming off of, but code smells are a great thing for reviews. Okay. When you get to a block of code and you're just like, it's just a blurry block of code. You're like, you're like doing a bunch of stuff all at once and none of it.
I had to read this 5 times to understand it.
That's a code smell. Yeah. Split that up into a couple methods that are named for what they're doing. Because that code smell of like, yes, it's using short functions and MapReduce, but you're doing so much of that all at once that you're starting to make magic happen, and each line doesn't quite make sense.
Right. If you're combining a bunch of array maps and array reduce and those things together, you can often separate those out into separate functions to make it much more clear what you're doing.
Right. And you can also get yourself into weird edge case territory where something's not returning a value that you are damn sure you should have right here. But you're already 4 levels deep into a map reduce and it's not going to do it. So
so John in Discord says GitLab does have the ability to define an assignee and a reviewer. And something that I strive for both in DiegoDev and PhoneBurner is we have assignees of a technical reviewer, somebody that looks at the code overall, and a functional reviewer, somebody that, is supposed to actually test the code before it goes live. And usually those people are much more fluent in the application, knowing all the weird edge cases, and preferably a third QA reviewer if we can get to that point.
Jeez. Must be
So-
nice to have all those people.
as a
it's-
senior developer, I would consider myself the functional reviewer where I see that you're calling something or you're writing a new map reduce for something that we already have handled somewhere else and you just didn't know about it, and that's fine. But that happens a lot where
Right.
most of our comments right now are you need to dry this up or you need to call the correct method. Because we have a lot of edge cases handled elsewhere in helpers and models and stuff like that.
So going back to what I was saying, ideally technical review, functional review, QA review. So we assign reviewers and then you assign a single assignee. And that's whose court the ball is in. Like at any point you look at a review and you say, this is on you right now. Instead of saying this is on any of you, where it sounds like you had it assigned to 6 people at one time, which can be confusing. It's like, no, this is on you right now. You have to do this or else, right? And ideally for me, it's technical review first. The person's going to go through, going to look at the code for obvious code smells. Are you following our coding standards? It's not even going to get to that person if PHP CS doesn't pass, which should catch those commas at the end of the arrays. It shouldn't be something you're looking at. Hopefully PHP stan is in place to catch some of the other major things that are in the code that, again, you shouldn't have to be looking at when it can be automatically done. So you have your automated tests first. Technical reviewer says, yeah, this follows all of our coding standards. This looks like I'll share a personal story in a few minutes, but everything looks good technically. Then it goes on to QA. QA signs off and does their thing. If you have a QA person, we're trying to get to that point. And then it goes to the functional reviewer who actually pulls the code down, tests it. At that point, it's signed off and can be merged. So from a technical perspective, I like what you're doing of looking at the test, making sure the tests cover use cases, which makes sense. And I want to answer the question in Discord that it depends on the size of the PR. Sometimes you can do it directly by looking at the code in GitLab or GitHub. Sometimes you actually have to pull the code down to do a better, thorough research of the pull request. Because if it's more than a handful of files, it's a pain in the ass to do it online, right?
Well, okay, that's another thing is that Laravel has a lot of helper functions, especially around collections, that I'm not 100% familiar with. And if I see something while I'm doing the review in Bitbucket or GitLab that I just like don't quite understand, I need to control click through to see like where is that defined, what is it doing. I have to pull it in to an actual IDE.
Yeah, to a point. I mean, if the tests cover that, then do you really have to deep dive into it, right?
Yes, I do.
Well, you do because you want to know, right?
That's my job.
Yeah. So, okay. Technical review, QA, functional review, all that passes, and then you can merge it in. That's my baseline. That's what I think should happen.
Well, for us, it goes to testing after that, and testing is brutal.
But isn't testing part of QA? What's testing versus QA?
Well, I mean, yeah, QA. I mean, after we don't get into QA until the PR is approved.
All right. So, bottom line, Digusons, I hope we answered your question. There's so many ways to do it. I would love Ralph Schindler he was asking within Discord some of the pain points, and I would love to hear what your pain points are and some feedback from Ralph at some point.
I got two follow-up questions I'd like to ask before we move on from this topic.
Sure.
Cool. One, how do you two, or maybe it's just an issue with me, but I'll ask this in general. How do you two deal with PR fatigue, like review fatigue, where you've gone through 4 or 5 PRs already in the last day or two? How do you have a practice to help you stay focused? Because that's my biggest thing. I get to the point where I'm trying to hustle through, I'm trying to get work done, and here I get another PR, and I'll do a lot of the things Tom talked about. If it's passing tests, if it's passing all the formatting stuff, I'll do a quick glance at it and say, okay, this all looks good, and just approve it. How do you guys attack that?
That's a damn good question, and I have to admit there are times where you're like, I'm so done with this. I've glanced through this, I can't see anything wrong, and I haven't done the full review, and that sucks. You don't want to do that, because as soon as that gets reverted, it's on you.
Yep.
Wait, what? No, it's not.
Absolutely.
No, it's on the developer. But that explains everything.
But that is a damn good point. And it sucks because I often let a PR sit around way too long before I get back to them. And in general, I advocate for getting back to, if somebody assigns it to you, getting back to them within 24 hours should be your minimum. But there are times where I'm like, I can't do this right now. And then it sits for a day or two. And then they ping me. I'm like, fuck, I really should get to this. Like, if it's a PR that is just ridiculous, it's hundreds of files, there are times where you're like, I can't. Luckily, most of us are very good at pattern matching. So as long as the PR is so specifically focused, like they did a search and replace and you can scan through it quickly, I might do that and approve it, but I'm not going to sit there and do a full review per se.
So I handle those first. The find replace stuff I handle first. The smallest PRs, immediately I take them off my list.
But they're not always like that. Like ideally, a find and replace PR is separate from an actual code review, but it's not always like that.
I'm getting there.
Well, no, you're not. I had to coax you there.
If I find that I am reviewing something and I'm just like, none of this comes together. I don't see the interactions between the files. I don't see the connections between how things are being passed back and forth. I take it back to the developer and I say, you've got a massive PR here that is very difficult to tell what's going on because things are so separated from their own behaviors. I need you to comment on all of it, explaining anything you think is tricky to me. Go in the PR, not comment in the code necessarily, but go in the PR and add comments and say, this is what this is doing. This is what this is doing. This is what this is doing. Break it down for me.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give you another question, and then we're going to wrap this topic up. We'll cut to our sponsor ad, and then we'll come back on a brand new topic for all the people who are still with us. My final question is, and this is one of the things I'm most guilty of. Okay, when you're in a state of PR review, and it's just when you're in a state of PR review, is that the correct time to address coding patterns? Like an example I'll give is, and I'm more picky about it when it's code that we're going to own 100%. Less picky about it with client code because we have these timelines of trying to get stuff pushed through, and I don't want to trip up developers. But irregardless, a PR will get submitted, for example, and I'm a big fan of the repository pattern. We've talked about this in past shows several times, and I'll see something and I'll go back to the developer. I'm like, hey, I really want this to be a repository with an interface. So refactor this and do this. Do you feel that's a bad time to implement that? Like, is that something that should have been scoped with the ticket, saying, hey, we need this stuff done, make this repository, make this the interface? Or do you think it's acceptable to do it at the PR state?
If to me, the ticket seems way too broad at that point if they didn't have the knowledge to know how to develop it.
Mm-hmm.
So it may have been a very big ticket, like just go build this feature, versus at some point all the developers coming in and saying, okay, we have this massive ticket. What are the exact deliverables through the entire thing? So it seems like it wasn't well defined to begin with.
Okay. That's fair. Tom?
I do two things. When something is wildly out of our coding standard, I comment on it and issue a change request on the PR. When something is slightly outside of our coding standards, like commas at the end of an array, or the line is too long, you need to break it up by method calls and whatever, I comment on it and approve the ticket if it's deserving of approval. So I say basically, if you change this, then it doesn't change the functionality of the ticket. It just makes it look the way we want it to. I want you to change it, but you have approval to merge once that's changed. I don't have to look at it again for you, because you get what I'm saying.
So again, I don't know GitLab. In GitHub, you can make suggested changes.
Mm-hmm.
So one, commas at the end of an array should be caught by PHPCS. Not a.
Okay, so
I mean, that's silly.
We don't enforce PHPCS right now.
You right. You should get to. People should get to that point. I understand you don't. So for a comma at the end of an array or anything else where it's a simple change that I'm saying, hey, you should do this, GitHub makes it very easy to make a suggested change.
So I don't say I don't say should. I will literally
say or
must. Yeah, I will literally say you need to change it to say this, but I still approve the ticket because functionally it's not a problem.
But what I'm saying is within GitHub, again, I don't know GitLab, I can make the suggested change. I can put the comma there. So literally all they have to do is say commit change.
Okay, so I can't do that. I can leave a comment on a line in a file.
Right. So answering D. Goosen's question, GitHub. So he's saying, when you do a review, do you only add comments, or do you also correct? If so, how? Do you edit the PR, or do you make an MR? I don't know what an MR is. Do you guys know what that is?
Merge request.
I've never heard of that. Or a PR.
I'm just
and
guessing.
When you do opt for a correction instead of a comment, very simple things for, hey, I know how this should look. You did it this way. It should look this way. I will add a suggestion, which literally does a diff, and then they can hit commit and do it. If it's something I don't understand, I'll leave a comment. If it's something that they really should do, and it's not as simple as adding a comma, I will leave a comment and ask them to do it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess I'm saying the same thing.
Right.
And hey, you know what? If it throws an error, it throws an error, and it get caught. It's get caught by.
How does it get caught, Thomas?
By our sponsor.
When you're in production, 1,000 things can go wrong. You could deploy a bug in your latest release. Your background fail. Up over the net. Your
What's the timestamp on that?
We're gonna try that again. For some reason, Chrome is eating up 8 gigs of memory.
Just close all of Chrome. You don't need it while we're doing. Well, wait, don't close.
It is no. It
all
is
of Chrome.
It is all closed.
Wait,
our sponsor,
8 gigs.
When you're in production, 1,000 things can go wrong. You could deploy a bug in your latest release. Your background jobs can silently fail. Someone could trip over the network cable at your data center, and this all comes back to you. You need to know when bad things happen and be able to respond to them quickly. That's why we built Honeybadger. It's easy to install Honeybadger in your back-end applications and front-end JavaScript. It only takes a few minutes of configuration and you'll have monitoring done. That's because we hook into popular web frameworks, job systems, and the browser, so that when any of them crash, we can automatically let you know. We ping your application from our global fleet of servers to let you know about problems with connectivity, latency, and SSL certificates, and we monitor your recurring jobs to see if any of them stop recurring. When there's a problem, we alert your team using the tools you already use. We can create issues in GitHub, Jira, and other issue trackers, and send notifications via Slack, PagerDuty, or other channels. When you click through, you'll be taken to detailed information on the error. You'll see things like request parameters, headers, user information, and the backtrace. Click on any line of the backtrace to view it in GitHub, Bitbucket, or your local editor. When you fix a problem, just mark it resolved and follow up with the affected user. That's Honeybadger. We're the monitoring tool for web developers who'd rather be, well, developing.
Thank you,
Honeybadger. Hey, can you do me a favor? If you're listening to us right now on YouTube specifically, can you please hit subscribe?
Please.
Cost you nothing. Please.
Hit the bell icon.
I don't care about the bell icon. Fuck that. I just want you to subscribe to us right now. We're not trying to get advertisers. We just want to have some subscribers.
No, we are trying to get advertisers. Come on, man.
Well, we are. I mean, that's an obvious at some point. So, big week. We're at the end of April, coming into the beginning of May, and PHP Architect is finalizing the magazine for the beginning of May. Eric and I spent a lot of time on it today and trying to get it finalized. We always give an early release to the people who provide content to our magazine, specifically the columnists, to get feedback before we actually do the final release. So we got that done today. So hopefully that's going out this week or very early next week.
Very early next week. Yeah. I'm excited. It's a good one too. I mean, just so much content.
We had to pull content from this month.
We did. Yeah.
Because otherwise it would have been way too many pages. And by the way,
Yeah.
it costs us money per page, so we have to limit that to a little bit.
There's a very real reason why we cut the pages.
Because it was so good. I hated cutting the content we had to cut. We actually cut 2 complete articles out of the magazine.
Yep.
We had
they're not cut. They got pushed back.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
a good way to put it.
Yeah. So actually, it turns out that PHP Architect is highly censored now in an attempt to get Elon Musk to buy us. Apparently, the more you censor something,
maybe we weren't clear. We would never accept $2 million from Elon Musk to buy our magazine. We will continue to censor.
Didn't he lose $180 billion yesterday
on his Tesla stock?
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to any of that crap.
Okay. All right. What else do you want to talk about?
I want to go back to Discord because I love the fact that people listen to us live and ask questions. So Devin the Dev asks, would you switch from PHP to Java or Python? If so, why? I recently started learning Java for an enterprise opportunity, and it made me appreciate Laravel so much more. And I actually have a very good response to this.
I do too. You go first because
I'll judge both of your responses.
So you said switch. Why would you switch? They are tools in your tool belt. You use the proper tool for the proper job, right? I'm a PHP developer by trade, as far as that's my main programming language. That's what I do on a daily basis. I picked up Java. I mean, I knew Java before PHP, but I was terrible at it because it's what I learned in college. And I was like, why would I ever use this? I relearned it after learning PHP because I needed to write an Android application. And at the time, maybe still, no, Kotlin is now the thing, right? But at the time, Java was the Android. What?
Go and Rust.
No.
See,
no.
I don't
John
know
is
what I'm talking about anymore.
John is right. You're right, John. You didn't let him finish. So Java was the Google preferred language for Android. It wasn't the only language you could use. Now they've adopted Kotlin.
Right.
Okay, well, don't judge my judgment. I told you I was going to judge.
I picked up Java because I needed to write an Android app. I wrote the Android app in Java because I needed specifically an Android app. Doing it, if I were writing an app that I wanted to be cross-platform, I would probably not do that. But what are you gonna do? I needed an Android app. I relearned Java, made it work. And Python is also amazing. I know Eric is a huge Python fan. I believe that works way better in the DevOps world than it does for the web application world, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a Python guy.
I have input, so I will reserve my feedback here.
No, I'm asking you right now. I'm not a Python guy.
Well, no, this is a contest, so he has to respond in kind as a separate statement.
So they're all tools in your tool belt. Use the right tool for the right job.
Right.
Done.
Okay, let me give you a better answer there, Devin. The key word that John brushed over was opportunity, right? If you're a developer and you love developing and you have an opportunity to get paid to develop and it's not PHP, you shouldn't limit yourself to PHP. With that said, if I'm leading the charge, I'm as a developer leading a charge at this point in my life, and I have been that person. I love dabbling in other languages, Go, Python. I mean, throw a language at me and I will fire up Vim editor and start typing, right? But I've done this long enough where you have to come to me, if I'm making the decisions, you have to come to me with a use case and explain to me why I shouldn't be using PHP. And
desktop app.
You need to have
Electron.
some reason behind it. And that would be the only reason I would explore other languages. So in your situation, if you have an opportunity to get an income that you feel is something you want, and you feel that learning Java is achievable to get that income, again, making a bunch of assumptions here, you're happy with the company and all that other stuff. Don't limit yourself. Be a good developer. Take the lessons you learn from Laravel, take the lessons you learn from PHP, and bring them into the Java world.
Okay.
Now, if your question is more along the lines of, if you were to move on from PHP and pick another language, which one do you feel is most approachable? To John's point, Python to me has always been like a natural language. Like, it's so easy to read Python, and Python's very approachable to write. I don't know if I would do that today. Python is one of those, like, one of the screwdrivers with all the heads on them that are interchangeable. Like, Python can be fit to just about anything. It's really good at some very specific things, but it can kind of be fit to anything. Depending on what interests you and what you want to do, like John said, you want to do desktop apps, you want to do mobile apps, you want to do scientific calculations. You really gotta look for the right tool for that job. To John's point, I would be interested in looking at things like Rust, Go. I mean, these are languages that are going to usher in the next generation of developers.
Okay, so -1 point from John for being in the peanut gallery.
Kaylin is asking if Eric would code in BASIC. BASIC is how I learned to code.
Me too.
I had a BASIC reference manual. My dad gave me some very basic commands, like I was 10 years old at the time. Gave me a very introductory intro into programming. When he was gone, while he was there, I'd watch what he did, and I would learn how to log into his computer, so he didn't know I was logging in because his password was Q1W2E3. I'm not judging, but
damn it, now I gotta change my password, John.
This was 35 years ago. But I still have it today, a basic reference manual where I would turn to a page and it would tell me what the command was in BASIC, what it was supposed to do, what the return was, and I would try it. And I was floored at 10 years old how this worked, and started writing programs to ask my sister questions. I mean, my sister's 7 years younger than I am. I mean, it sounds stupid today, but asking her how old she was, what her address was, what her phone number was, and telling her if she was right or wrong gave me an understanding of how coding worked. And from there, I went to this stupid little graphics program where this little dot ran across a line.
It was a triangle.
Line.
It was a turtle.
No, it would jump over a break in the line, and then it would climb a ladder. And I still remember to the day writing this thing where it would climb up this ladder and the ladder would disappear. And I had no clue why. Talking to my stepdad at the time, like, I don't understand why the ladder is disappearing. And he still couldn't tell me why, because the way he described it to me, and again, this is how you talk to people, he was saying that when you do this, it puts this little thing up in memory. And he kept pointing to the corner of the screen of something being in memory. And I couldn't grab it at the time. I didn't understand. He fixed my code and made it work. And I was still amazed, but I didn't understand why at the time. But it's those little things that
it's funny
make
because
us developers.
We were just talking about this actually this week while we were putting together the PHP Architect magazine, which, again, if you don't subscribe, you should subscribe now. But one of the things we were looking when we were doing our final edit is how we could shrink some code blocks because people put in code in their article. And I was telling John how I had a TRS-80 Cocoa computer growing up, and BASIC is what I ran on that thing. And I looked forward every month. They had the Cocoa magazine that came out, and I would go get it and immediately start typing in the basic commands, the programs that were in the magazine, and that's pretty much how I learned to plagiarize code. But nothing. Okay.
So no, I this is interesting. Yeah. So the verdict is in. You're both wrong, which is kind of fascinating. We have, all three of us have learned new programming languages. Now, it hasn't necessarily been Java or Python or Perl, but it has been GraphQL syntax, enough Node to run a WebSocket listener, enough, whatever, GD to process an image. These are all languages that we work with, and we work with them in very small parts. Now, as PHP developers, the vast majority of what we do is in PHP. That's true. And if you go to a position where they say, well, the vast majority of the work we do is in Java, you're still in an environment, but you're going to reference all of the things that work correctly for you. If you need to process a PDF, you're writing in Ghost script. If you need to process an image, you're writing in GD or ImageMagick. Those are all just wrappers for what you're working with. And if you need to write in GraphQL, you're writing in a special JSON syntax that's specific to GraphQL.
Are you answering his question?
No, I'm just explaining how you're both. Off. I'm just explaining how you're both wrong. I
don't hear it yet.
We do this. We do learn different languages. We apply them where they apply.
That wasn't.
So you agree with both of us so far? Go ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely siding with both of us.
Were we wrong?
Good job, Tom. Good job.
I would stay away from Java.
Why? No, you can't.
He has an opportunity to get paid to do Java.
I don't like Java.
You.
I would focus. If I were to switch languages, I would focus on the popular framework for that language. I probably wouldn't try to deep dive into the internals of Java. I would start with their implementation of Java and whatever Java framework that there is. So, getting the idea of getting into Java.
We don't need to extend on that. I think we all get what you're saying. Yeah, we need to.
I mean, I like that your daughter
gets what we need to do. If you want to keep talking, just put up a Patreon supporters, please. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Holy shit, we've been here for over an hour.
You're always the one that wants to cut it off.
I'm just surprised that it's been that long. Holy cow.
I mean, we had a good 10, 15 minutes.
I got to glide tomorrow. I'm sorry, sir.
You got to glide tomorrow.
No more butt falls, I hear.
Oh, you pay attention to me on Facebook. That's cute.
Yes, I do.
Oh, God. I've been trying to be better at Facebook. Okay. So I want to address a question that's been asked of me several times in the last week, and I'm not exactly sure why.
Is your zipper down on purpose, or is it an accident?
Yes, I'm on Mastodon. Yeah, so there's a PHP Mastodon, and it is blowing up right now with all the Twitter hype. So I'm going to throw that in our Discord as well. I'd hope to get to this a little earlier and have more of a conversation about it, but this is a thing that's out there for anybody who's interested. There's a lot of people jumping into this thing. It's been around for a long time. I think I've been on it for a couple of years. Just basically, that's where everybody goes to get updates from Sarah Goldman. So.
Oh, yeah.
Not on Twitter anymore.
That makes sense. I would lead with that next time. I would say, "Hey, did you know Sarah Goldman's on our Mastodon channel?"
Yeah, exactly. So you might want to check that out. But I also have been pinged on Twitter, on Discord, on Telegram, just about everywhere. Somebody sent me a letter in the mail. I don't know how that happened, but the announcement for Release Manager 8.2.
Oh yeah, this did
8.2.
come up a couple times, didn't it?
A couple times, and they're opening up. They're opening up for people interested to get added to the list, and a lot of people have asked if I am going to be added to the list, if I was going to put my name back in for it. Now, I'm not going to say whether I am or whether I'm not, because I like to keep people guessing. But there is a possibility I might put my name in under an alias. Maybe I won't. Maybe I will. Maybe there will be somebody named Eric, like the man or something. I don't know. Maybe that's me. Maybe that's not. I'm not saying it either way.
It's not.
Are you trying to ruin his chances?
I do not think I am going to try for 8.2. My plate is pretty full. Remember, when I put my name in there for 8.1, that was before we had PHP Architect, and a lot has changed since then. So I realized that nobody in the PHP core likes me, except for like 2 or 3 people who voted for me. So my pride can only.
Yeah, but you've done this
so
podcast for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Do you not pay attention to your own podcast? It's been more than 4 years.
Yeah, it has. I think we're on like 6 now.
Yeah.
I really think you should do it. Because I mean,
No. Do
Is that a challenge? Are you challenging me?
No, stop.
I feel like it's a challenge, John.
No, it's not a challenge. His plate is too damn full, dude.
What are the chances I would actually get voted in?
It doesn't matter. I don't.
You're probably right. I don't think Eric could do it.
Stop.
Nope.
This is not a challenge to him.
I don't
want.
Don't think I could
want him to do it. I don't want him to do it. He's got too much stuff going on right now.
I feel like it's a challenge.
The number of people that don't want Eric to do it, I could count on, my hands and like a couple other people's hands.
It's not a challenge. I don't want you to even put your hat in the ring right now. Next time.
It's not a challenge in the way that it would be too challenging. So don't do it because
I just feel like there's already a good list going. I just feel like my odds would be pretty low to begin with. So I think I'd be safe.
This isn't a challenge. I don't.
Who wants to be the guy that didn't raise his hand at an opportunity?
No. Look, it hasn't even been a week, and it's already 5 people on there.
When he put his hat in the ring last time, it was prior to PHP Architect. It was like, this would be fun. I would love to see him do this, and I was very encouraging.
Yeah.
No, we've got too much going on right now.
But don't you remember how he suffered when he didn't win? Isn't that worth seeing again?
No, I don't want him to not win. I want him to win, and I want him to win at a time when he can do the goddamn job.
So you're on board with this. You want him to be a PHP release manager.
Yes, in the future,
John,
not right now.
John, look,
in case you're wondering what gaslighting is,
pretty sure my kids.
This is gaslighting. I'm pretty sure. I don't. Maybe it's mansplaining. I'm not an expert, and neither are you.
All right, so it's clear.
Not the right time. No,
I haven't made a decision yet.
It sounds like John's made the decision for you.
I have.
It's a real Amber Heard situation.
Eric, if you love me, you will wait till 8:30.
Yeah. Now you just gotta shit on his side of the bed.
I already give him a hard time about his gliding.
I call it flying, he calls it gliding. It's all the same. I'm doing it tomorrow, I hope. Now that you've made me
gliding
more
is
than
being
I wanted
nice. Falling gracefully is probably more of what it is.
You saw them up.
You start on the ground.
You saw them up over my kid's baseball game. By the way, Eric
doing absolutely nothing.
T-ball game
in a big swing.
Wait. Eric came to my kid's t-ball game today on a day where he got 3 outs. Not him personally. He got 3 other people out. Amazing. I thought it was cool. Okay.
I forgot how excited it is to see such small people.
Wait, did you say t-ball
well
game?
When it's your small
T-ball,
person.
yeah.
How do you?
Yeah, it's t-ball.
How do you get someone out on a t-ball game? Oh, I guess
Yeah.
you're not as a pitcher. Like he caught 3 balls.
Yeah. He got like
Gotcha.
runners out.
Yeah. I'm thinking he got 3 strikeouts on a t-ball game. I'm really putting things together tonight.
You know what the cutest thing is? So I didn't have t-ball when I grew up. I think t-ball came along a couple of years. It was invented like a few years after I started playing. That's a joke. I'm not that old. My club didn't offer t-ball. That's all I'm saying. But
that's the lawn dart talking.
It's so cute. I had a joke for my wife. I'll share with you guys here in a moment. It's so cute seeing these really small. They're like people, but they're really small. Play this game, but the cutest thing of all was the catcher. This is t-ball. Nobody's pitching. The catcher is standing back there, like way against the fence, totally geared up. He has the whole catcher gear on, just standing there. I'm like, I'm gonna steal that kid. Like, I just want to take that kid and put him in a glass case because he is perfect. I love that.
They said they didn't do that last year.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense.
Did somebody get hurt?
No, I think
no COVID restrictions.
It may have been. I don't know. All I know is
I've never seen
all of a
that
sudden
before.
this year
I
they're
thought
doing
that was the
it.
cutest thing. Yeah,
it is.
Okay, I got
pictures.
I got a joke for you guys. This is a clean joke. Kaylin, you can use this joke. Okay, you guys ready? How do you know when a joke is a dad joke? It should be apparent. Cut it out. You see how good that was? That was a good one. All right, we're wrapping it up. That's it. I'm calling it for episode 200. And what did I say? 84? 284. PHPUgly on this day in history, April 28th, 2022. I'm Eric.
I'm John.
Fuck Elon Musk.
Keep it up.
Keep it ugly. I didn't get nearly enough Elon Musk ranting.